And I want to get right into it. When I was out there just listening and mingling with you on your coming here and understanding, I think some of this is going to resonate well with you. And Tony, thank you for those opening comments. I've heard it said that you'll be the same person you are 5 years from now that you are today, except the people you meet in the books you read. And I really think that the people that are in this room resonate well with that statement. You're here because of maybe somebody in your life that had an impact on you, and I'd like to share my story with you as a teacher. I spent 30 years in the business world, but a teacher made an impact in my life. And Joe Grabowski was a high school history teacher. I really wasn't excited about history. Wasn't too much into school, but he's also my football coach. And when I start observing people, and then you realize you're not just observing them. By the way, in your classroom, they're observing you too, aren't they? Every single day. And how little was I aware of that until my senior year. I'm graduating from high school in 4 weeks. I'm standing in the hallway, just hanging out, and Mr. Grabowski comes up to me and he said, O'Laughlin. Coaches, they never call you by the first name. He didn't pat me on the rear, but he said, hey, O'Laughlin. That coach thing. What are you doing next year? I was stopped in my tracks. I didn't have a plan. And I said, I was startled. I said, Coach, I don't know. He said, you don't know? He said, you're graduating in 4 weeks, Ray. Isn't it about time you start understanding? I'm very interested. What are you going to do? And I said, I don't know. And he said, what are you doing Saturday? I said, probably the usual, Coach. I'm probably nothing. He said, you are now. He said, 9 o'clock in the morning, would you be ready? I said, where are we going? He said, you let me worry about that. He said, but you be ready at 9 o'clock. I'm going to pick you up. And then he looks at me and looks me up and down because it'll give you kind of where I was in my life. He said, oh, by the way, would you wear something decent? Some of our kids today, and I resonate well with that. So anyway, Coach stops by, sure enough, 5 to 9, picks me up. I didn't know where we're, isn't it amazing how you'll jump in a car with someone and you don't know where you're going? I love this man, though, and he loved me. And what I learned from Coach was the fact that he was observing me since I was a freshman. In his car, that windshield time is so critical sometimes, isn't it? Because the radio's off. And I said, Coach, where are we going? He said, Ray, he said, we're going to Northwood University. I said, where's that? And he said, it's 20 minutes away. It's in Midland. And then it hit me. And here's how he touched my heart. He said, Ray, I have observed you since you were a freshman. You played 5 minutes your freshman year in football. I said, whoa, yeah, I did. I didn't play. I was a run, I was the youngest in the class. And in boys, that's kind of hard because you don't mature until later on. And he looked at me and said, I've seen you and observed you. You've been my team captain for 2 years, Ray. And I've seen you from freshman to senior. You have got some amazing leadership skills and abilities. I was stunned. Nobody's ever told me that. You ever share something with one of your students? Where did they get that? I said, Coach, he said, Ray, you've been leading my football team for the last 2 years. And you've been executing this in the area of sports. Now it's time for you, now that you're graduating, to take those leadership skills and develop them and hone them in the business world. Where do you think I went to school for 4 years? Northwood University. It was amazing how that man touched my life. And when I was going to college, I had one role, student, and I like that because student, what kind of responsibility I do? It's pretty much take care of yourself, right? And I was doing an okay job with that. But then I started taking on these new roles because after I graduated from college, after 4 years, I took on this new role of employee. And I did with McDonald's when I started out, I was a management trainee because it's my job to learn, right? Not to lead yet, but to learn. And then they graduate you up into these leadership roles. That's a role. And when they give you a role, now they got people underneath you, right? And I was doing a good time and doing a good job in my role when I didn't have people under me because the first person you manage is yourself, right? So then you start giving you more people, just like you in the classroom. You're doing okay until that first student shows up, aren't you? And you're just anxiously awaiting, okay, what's going to come in that classroom? Well, then you got one. Okay, one's okay. You got this little intimate relationship. And then you're up to 25. Now you're 30, and you might have 70 in your class where we're going with online learning. Isn't it amazing what the scaling opportunities are? Well, I had that same kind of scaling in my life, in my roles. I was responsible for 87 units in 3 states, 5,000 employees, doing annual business of $200 million and serving 38 million customers a day, or excuse me, a year. That's a lot of scale. You're scaling in your classroom. The first time that second one shows up, now you're growing. So how do you scale and how do you do that? More importantly, what's my responsibility? As we transition to the first, I like how Robert Marzano puts it. Findings suggest that when district leaders are carrying out their responsibilities effectively, the role is the district leader. Oh, good, I'm a teacher. It's not my responsibility. It's his responsibility to give me and to act effectively so we can achieve in the district. No, we all have roles too, don't we? But what is that responsibilities? And here's the key of responsibilities effectively. That effectively, when you're having your performance evaluation, isn't that usually what the conversation's around? Or even with your students? What is effective to you? Let's align around what effective to me. Let's engage in this conversation. Because here's a rather stunning findings in the data. So here's an average. In that first column, you'll have the percentage entering the test score of a 50 percentile, right? If you're a highly ineffective school and highly effective teachers, what chance does that kid have? If you're a highly effective school and a highly ineffective teacher, you're riding on the backs of some people, aren't we? Potentially. I don't know, let's get in there and find out what's going on. Highly ineffective school, but you got a highly effective teacher. Some of you understand that very well, don't you? And look at that bottom one. Let's rock this thing out. Isn't that cool? And what a vision to have. So that's kind of what I want to talk to is this effectively and what is responsibility. I always considered my responsibility in my leadership roles is to bring about positive outcomes and strive for excellence in all I do. All I do. From when I even come into that school, I see trash on the ground. You know what? Excellence is not trash. Do you pick it up? When you see that student, encouraging them, what is effective to you in all we do? All we do. And it was, because we do a lot of rankings. I mean, data, crying out loud. We have a lot of data, don't we? And the data we do rankings, in my world, we rank them, line them up. And they don't just put the name on the restaurant or the name on the region name. They put the person's name aside of it because we really get personal with this stuff. Just like you in your classroom. This is Mrs. Jones's classroom. And your students understand that and know that. And I was always concerned with being the best. But see, with being the best, what I was really missing inside of that whole message, because when I transitioned my stinking thinking away from being the best, Ray, why don't you quit concerning yourself with being the best? Why don't you just do your best, right? Because being the best is an outcome. Doing your best that's what I bring to the table, isn't it? Every single day in all I do. How did I prepare the class for their instruction that day? Am I having my standards that I'm establishing for myself higher than the expectations of those around me? And when I at least concern myself with being the best and doing the best, what naturally happens? What happens to the outcomes? They go up. But that takes an internal reflection because doing the best is inside, being the best is external. And this effective leaders, I think there's 5 key things that I've learned in a lot of my life and a lot of my roles and a lot of my experiences. Leaders engage, they don't control. You ever hear someone say, well, I don't control those kids? Do you think our kids want to be controlled? Does that high school, these kids in juvie, do they want to be controlled? No, they don't. So let's get them controlled. But how do I engage them? Do I listen more than talk? Am I good at exercising open-ended questions to challenge their thinking, to have them consider a different perspective? How well do I do at that? I learned a lot of that in the interview process. I interview a lot of people. But when I have relationships and I'm trying to glean something and help these kids understand and these adults understand, who are you and how's that working for you? How do I engage you? Do I make it interesting? Effective leaders. I think we know we're coming into this with big problems. There are big challenges, don't we? I think here's a key to an effective leader. I used to ask myself, if I'm talking about the same issue 3 months from now that I was back then, the issue isn't the problem, the issue's me, because obviously I'm not bringing the time, the training, the tools, and the skills and engaging people to address this problem. And that's something that we hold ourselves personally responsible for. So they look at not the big problem, they look at the same problem, the same challenge. Because something's got to change, because we can't continue to do things the same way and expecting that outcome to turn around, can we? So how do we engage people? You ever been, Coach, he was good at inspiring people, not motivating. Do you have to motivate winners? Man, they really come, they come pretty darn well already understanding what their target is for that day, and they're pretty self-motivated. But we inspire people. What do you want them? What do you want to help them become? What are the potential? When you go into a detention center, you walk in that room and you see some of these amazing kids. You talk about team building skills. You talk about energy. You talk about commitment. You talk about passion. Woo, they got it all. Now, let's kind of not use it where let's consider maybe exercising that in other areas. These are amazing kids. I learn a lot from them. See, they think I'm coming in here to teach them and help them learn. No, they teach me. Isn't that amazing when you engage and you start asking questions, what they'll teach you? I heard some of that out there, of what some of the folks in some of the interesting classrooms that you have, what you're gleaning from your students. And they help us grow. But see, when we motivate people and people come, man, are you going to come back tomorrow? When you come, I get this energy. And I'm thinking, well, I'm not going to be here tomorrow, so where's that energy going to come from? Helping them discover that little voice within themselves, that they have that. How do they bring that out into the game every day? That's tough, especially in some of the conditions and the challenges that we work in. But they feed off that inspiration. So let's inspire. Because when you're requiring me to motivate you, where are you placing the responsibility and the authority is in me? No. But you know what? As a leader, I like motivating, because when I'm motivating you, who you depend on? Me, aren't you? No. Because now when you're depending upon me and you don't know who you are, I can manipulate you any way I can I? Because now you're mine. That's what I learned from the gang leaders working the prisons. They are very good motivators. And I learned a lot from them guys. Helped me be a better leader. Talk about get out of my comfort zone. Go into one of those places. You want honesty? You go in and listen to a guy that's not ever going to get out. And if you ask him his opinion, he'll tell you. And he'll help you learn a little bit about yourself. Because they don't hold back. I love that honesty and that level of honesty. Here's the thing about motivation that I found. We looked at Marzano's up there. When you're a high performer in a low-performing school, here's what I learned is don't demotivate your eagles. Sometimes we do that, don't we? And you've worked into where, why are you subjecting me to what the bottom 10 or 20% are doing? Why don't you go deal with them? Why are you requiring me to do that? I don't have a problem with it. But because we got 10 to 15% messing up, what's that do? We subject it to the whole team. And so what we end up doing is bringing people down like this. No, have them rise up with you to your standards and your expectations. Don't demotivate the eagle. They won't hang around. They'll go to some place to wait. You tell them to go be a loser somewhere else. I got to go somewhere where our standards are up here and our expectations, and we're driving it. But here was the big aha. And this probably wasn't until 10 years before I departed. I hear this data-driven. I hear this goals-driven, objectives-driven. I'm thinking, believe me, I was data-driven for a long time. I was chasing numbers like crazy. But I wasn't really addressing the issue. So what does it mean? Instead of data-driven, or if it's not data-driven, what is it? Values-driven. That is a different culture. I needed to become a values-driven leader, not a data-driven leader. That's a whole different flip in mindset. Because the number, the data is the outcome. What drives outcome is what goes into it. And what goes into it, when you come to the table, and I want to share this next slide. This is getting to the heart of it. When you come to the table and your team, who are we? I saw these jackets that said all in. Where's all in? I want to hear, where's all in? Yeah. But no, I get curious. What do you want me to come into? Right? Isn't it? How often do we say, what am I coming into? Well, you're coming into our team. Here's what you're coming into, baby. We dare to be different. We're willing to take risk. If you've got a high accountability culture and all this negativity, are people going to take risk in that culture? No. Why? It's because you're just getting a reason to get rid of me. I don't feel respected. We lead with passion. I kind of struggle with that one a little bit. Are we not limited by others? We're persistent. You ever see persistence? These kids in juvie, I asked one of them, I said, Tyrone, I said, I bet you there's a house in Grand Rapids that you and the boys can't get into. He looked at me with the most determined look. He said, they don't build a house me and my boys can't get into, Mr. Ray. He was serious, too. I said, you know what? I love that about you, Tyrone. Your persistence, your determination. Oh, my gosh. Wouldn't you just love to stay with him for a while and journey through life with him for a bit? Here's the ones that really get me cranked up, though. Integrity and respect. We tell the truth. I told my team once, I said, hey, we're going to get a new tool for performance evaluations. Oh, great, let's get another tool. I said, yeah, we're going to call it table chairs and some honesty. How often do we sit down with people and we sit there? I've done it. You sit there and you lie to them. Well, you know, they're going through a rough time in life. I know he's got some issues at home. And so I kind of let up a little bit. When I ask these kids, when I ask people, do you want me to be honest with you or you want me to flower it up? What do you think they tell you? What do you think they tell you? You want it honest or you want it flowered up? Straight up or flowered up? What do they tell you? Straight up, baby. So, okay, let's get rolling. That's how I want it. Then they say, well, Ray, you should treat people the way you'd ought to be treated. Well, not everybody really, well, maybe be cognizant of the way you bring it to them, Ray. Be respectful, right? Because we trust each other to speak our minds. We're open to feedback. I think the open to feedback, they put one in there that for me because if I'm not open to feedback, right, why didn't they be honest with me? Well, the last time they tried to be honest with you, you shut them right down. You told them they were the problem. You weren't the problem, right? No, you're the problem, Ray. You're not listening. Oh, wow. One of my employees told me that. How am I doing for you? How can I do better, Ray? You're not a good listener. I said, help me understand that. My kids tell me that, too. That's another role that these probably work pretty well in. This next one, the fourth one, will always strive to do the right thing for the right reasons. I loved it when the team came up with that principle. Because what's always mean? Always. Oh, you mean not when it's just easy, or not when it's just comfortable, or not when it's politically correct? No, always means always. And the right thing. If it's not right, it's what? I'd be interested in feedback. That's an interesting conversation in itself, isn't it? But as long as it is convenient for me, as long as I'm, benefiting from it, no. We say it's not an easy thing to do. I'm not concerned about I'm more concerned about, is that the right thing to do? Because it's tough to make those decisions, those choices, have those conversations, isn't it? Absolutely. But doing the right thing for the right reason. If we applied that more consistently, you know how much less problems we'd probably have? I found that even in my own personal life. We can make candor and tact. So I'm just being candid with you. Yeah, you're also being darn right rude. Tact. Taking them into consideration. Considering who your listener is. And looking at it from their perspective, but still being honest. And sometimes I'm struggling with how to share this with you, I'll tell them. Help coach me. I got something to share with you that I'm really struggling with, but help me with this. So bringing those to the table, it was really kind of cool. Here's what I love about these, because with 5,000 employees scattered amongst 3 states, you measure the diversity of that group, there might even have been a couple in there that might not agree with me. There's probably more than a couple. But see, it didn't matter if I'm tall or short, if I'm black or white. my religious background, my sexual preference. Those are irrelevant when it comes to treating each other with respect, doesn't it? See, values and principles aren't a respecter of why we try to make it different. They're universal, aren't they? And they go across the board. It's interesting. The employees would sit there and come to me and say, you know what, Ray, it's interesting. I take these home. I said, really? Tell me about that. Yeah. My kids, I need to do a better job with some of that at home. We worked with, I called Sandra up the other day. I said, Sandra, I'm speaking to some of your friends here in Minnesota. She's with an authorized school out in western Minnesota. She came to us. She was really frustrated. She's on the board. She's also a leader in the school. Crafting the vision, the mission, and the value statement for this organization was critical for her. But here's what she wanted to do is who are we, why do we do what we do, and where are we going? I love this at the top. Focused on the mission, aiming for the vision, and driven by what? Data. No, values. When we do, down below, they went through a rough storm. And when you're going through a rough storm, you know where they have this posted? They got a big high board, and it's posted in the boardroom. When they got choices to make and decisions to make, you know where they look to? What do they put it through? The litmus test of what? The values of the organization. And is that aligned and taking us to the mission to where we're going? That's some powerful stuff. So now if you're all in, this is what all in means. And this is the real interesting thing too, is this isn't what we expect of our employees. This is what our employees should expect of us. We're the leaders, right? Our classroom. What is respect like? Here's what respect looks like from me as your classroom leader to you. I will be here every day. I'm going to strive to be here every day for you. Because I know when I'm not here, it could be a wasted day. I don't want to waste your day because I'm here to teach. What are you here for? Could you tell me? Oh, by the way, what amount of time can I expect you to be here to learn? Could you write that number down? That target, right? Self-management. So, here's the turnover. Here's the data. Here's one of the examples that really frustrated me because I was talking about the same problem 3 months in a row. I said, okay, Ray, it's time to do something different. Turnover, right? I'm chasing this number. I'm coming to the meetings. We put the rankers up. Okay, let's talk about turnover again. Same number. I mean, same old thing. And then I realized, wait a minute. You're chasing the number, Ray. You know what happens to people when we treat them with more respect? When we appreciate who they are and what they bring? When we're hard on the issue, not the person? When we treat them in a way that probably we'd like to be treated, we praise them in public, we offer up constructive feedback in private. When you start doing that, what happens to turnover when you start respecting and having people feel respected? It goes down. I was chasing the number. I didn't realize what the real problem was in my own organization, and I was leading it. Huge aha. And that's amazing because when you get to that, now your people want to follow you. Now your values and principles are established. Now you're ready to build on something. Because what we usually try is we try for the outcome, but we don't have the foundation. If you're going to fall apart as an organization, a family, a person, I would generally believe it probably started down below in the foundation of principles and values, didn't it? This is who you say you are. Why are you acting like that? Or Ray, you say you appreciate us. Why would you treat us like that? And that's that pot. I had to be open to feedback, didn't I? And they were very specific with me. And did I grow in that with them? And you never get that second chance at a first impression. So here's the kind of the last slide. And then it kind of goes, because I'm kind of selfish because who I am, that's focused on who? Me. We get the opportunity to come into our classrooms, outside our front door every day, and those who cross our paths will be the same people 5 years from now that they are today, except for the impact and the impression they glean from us, because they will follow, won't they? And they are following. Now, I started this off with my story of Coach. That's Coach Grabowski. I said to Coach, I took him out for breakfast last Friday. This gets emotional for me. I took him out to breakfast. I said, I drove up to old hometown. And you can see Coach. Can I have that picture up again? You can see Coach. He's got some back issues. I asked him, I said, Coach, how young are you? He said, Ray, I'm 77. I said, I'm going out to Minnesota. I said, somebody's made an amazing difference in my life, and I'm going to share it with. I said, they're a bunch of your colleagues. You never met them, but you know what? They have that same passion, I believe, that you gave to me. Thank you so much for what you've done in my life. That's Coach Grabowski. And I thanked him. The attitude of gratitude. Because I wanted him to know what you set that seed in my heart 40 years ago. You know how many employees that have worked with me and how many people I come into contact in that juvenile detention center, and I say to these kids, I said, I see some leadership in you, Marquand. Don't you dare kid yourself. You see how everybody comes up to you for the answer? I said, why did they come up to you, Marquand, for the answer? He said, I'm the leader. They got this bravado, you know. He's very flamboyant. I said, yes, you are. What do you like to do? When you're not running with the guys and you're not selling the rocks on the street, what do you like to do, Marquand? He said, I love tats, man. You know, whether I like them or not, that's irrelevant. Help me understand. Why do you say that, Mark? I think you could have the best tat place here in Grand Rapids. You think you could hang with some of the best ones out there? He said, hang with them. Ray, I set the standard. I love that confidence. He said, nobody's ever told me that, Mr. Ray. 17-year-old kid. And I said, it's one thing to talk about it. What's the plan? We're having a breakout at 1:30. If you're interested in some of that, come on over. But how do we take this from concept and theory and put it into practice and application? Because it's about the who. We talked a lot about the who. What's amazing is when you bring the who together with the what. And who owns the what? Who needs to own the what? They do, right? That's the engagement. Thank you very much. I really appreciate our time together. Thank you.